Sorry.
Because we're going to talk about the Browns' other quarterback, and this topic on Jameis Winston is brought to us by FanDuel. You can tackle all the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to join today. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Guys, Jameis Winston threw 3 interceptions, did not find the end zone against the Chiefs on Sunday. He now has 11 turnovers since taking over the starting job in Week 8. That is the most in the NFL. Jay, the last time you were on this show before your week of vacation, it was the Wednesday after the Denver game, and you said you would extend Jameis Winston on the spot.
Yes.
Fast forward about 11 days. Would you still give Jameis an extension, or
Absolutely.
have you changed your tune?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Give him an extension. 100%.
Explain.
I'm giving 3 years, $750,000 total. What? What? That's a great deal, you guys.
I was not expecting that answer.
That is a great deal.
That's the best. That's the best thing I've ever heard you say on the show. That was fire.
I texted Jason and Adam last night and said, I'm putting this in the rundown.
Yo.
What do you think Jay's going to do? And we all said, he's not going to back off this take.
Yeah.
Why would I?
I said he'll hijack the show and turn it into a bagel before he takes back the take and admits he was wrong. And Jay, you know what? You outsmarted me. I didn't think you had it in you. Kudos to you, my friend.
Bingo.
That is one of the things that you
Tell
said
me you wouldn't do that deal right now.
where I was like, I wish
do
I
it.
would have said that.
I'm in.
That's
3
the
years.
best spin zone in the history of the show.
That's
Jay.
illegal, though, because it's below the salary. Below the
You got to
minimum
give him
salary.
the minimum.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what it is for a
I
veteran.
think it's
of
like
his-
$1 million, maybe.
Boom, do it.
3
You
year,
do
$3
3 for $3
million.
million right now.
What the hell? We're giving a guy that's not playing $170 million. That's a
That was
bargain.
good, Jay. That was really good.
That was good.
I
That
hate
was
to
well
admit it, but
done.
that was really
That was
good.
fire.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm calling his agent right now, because when is the price going to be any lower? You want to buy low. That's what you do in this business.
I think Sean King still wants to give him a 4-year, $100 million contract.
$30 million a year.
No, listen.
Yeah.
Listen. Only a wise man stays in his lane when he knows he's going to get hit by a train.
We all get him wrong. We get
And
him
you
right.
can quote me on that.
Yeah.
I have said, and I second this too, I would be the worst general manager in the history of sports. I'd be the worst. I would have signed Jameis to a huge deal.
And then you'd cut him a week
and then
later.
I would cut him immediately after that garbage you gave us yesterday.
Can you imagine me and Jay as the assistant general manager?
Hey.
I'd be like, we be in a million. He got to go. No sign.
I've been watching games with friends before, and this has happened. This is a true story. It was with Baker Mayfield. I had said in the first quarter, you can't win with this guy. You cannot win with this guy. You just can't. He keeps throwing these ridiculous into double coverage.
Yeah.
He can't read. His processor is too slow. Then later in the game, he throws 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They come back, they win, and I go, this dude's playing like an MVP. This dude's playing like now, here's what's great about that. I'm no different than all of us.
That's right.
We all do that.
Sure.
Now, why am I so emotional? Because I'm old, I'm dying, and I want a title. I want a title. So, what did George Steinbrenner do at the end? You're fired. Nope. Come on, you're hired. Come on back, Billy. Come on back. And we're both born on 4th of July, by the way. I'm a poor George Steinbrenner who doesn't really have the power.
Well, I don't know about poor.
So what I do, because George's
compared
turn,
to
trust
George,
me, I've
yeah.
seen how George lived.
Yeah.
But guys, and by the way, it's not just because I'm old and dying. I've always been that way. When I was 15 and I was watching, I was that way. I am, the definition of a fan is fanatical.
Sure.
I am wild all over the place. I'm fanatical. And it's so funny to me how in the span of 2 weeks, Jameis Winston can go from the guy that beat Pittsburgh, from the guy...
And Baltimore.
Yeah.
This guy could have run for mayor and Bibb would have been in trouble. Okay?
Yeah.
This guy was walking on Lake Erie and it wasn't yet frozen. And now I'm watching him and I'm like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? What is wrong with him? And I had a buddy who's in the Tampa media that was also, he's a Browns fan. He's originally from Cleveland, but he's been in the Tampa media for years. He said, yeah, you're figuring it out, aren't you? This was after his third pick yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is it? And he goes, the processor just is too slow. He sees things that are there, but he doesn't see things. He doesn't see things that are there. And sometimes he sees things that aren't there, which is the worst possible combination. He's got, if he walked into a quarterback lab and they looked at him physically, they'd say, this is what he's supposed to look like. This is what he's supposed to throw the ball like. This is it. But we know the position is played up here.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Jameis, and what he said was, his ultimate thing was, he goes, what the collective thought of the Tampa media was that you can't stay where you are if you're not intellectually able to grow. You'll never grow. And it was like, Jameis is the guy that he was. He's the guy that he was when he came out of college. He's the guy that he was when he was in Tampa. That's in his DNA. And I kept saying, because Sean was telling me, no, he learned from his time sitting and watching. And maybe he did.
Yeah.
But now, what do we all do? A tiger always goes back to his stripes. And unfortunately, because I like him, I was rooting for him so hard. The
players
I wanted him to be the answer. I really did. But we saw him on the bench yesterday, and that wasn't just so we could see if DTR is the answer, because I think we all know that. It was just like, we can't have this.
By the way, Mike said he's thrown the most interceptions since he took over in Week 8.
Since that point.
If you look at the whole season, he's tied for fourth in interceptions.
Stunning.
Even though he didn't play the first 7 games.
Stunning.
I think you hit it right, the nail on his head, because you know me, when I be talking about stuff, I got to get into the deep dives. I got to go find me a documentary, because after he threw some of them picks, I was like, what is this man looking at?
Gee, I thought that first pick was like he was throwing a Hail Mary.
I thought he was throwing it away.
I don't know what he was doing.
And it was right after a timeout. That's why I asked Tyvis. Maybe Stefanski said, hey, you're throwing Elijah Moore here, but who knows?
I hope the cameras, I hope Hard Knocks shows this. I don't know if they will, because I think the team tells them what they can and can't show.
They showed Ken Dorsey after one.
Well, no, there was a moment.
They did.
Before they pulled him, there was a moment.
He had Blake stare?
No. Jameis came off the field. I meant to make a note of this, and I didn't. And Kevin put both of his arms up on Jameis' shoulders and was talking to him for quite a while. And I mean, like 30 seconds. But in that, like,
that's a long time.
And he was, and I was thinking at the time, he's about to pull him. Like, Kevin's had enough. He can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And just the way that he was talking to him, I hope I would love to know what that conversation was, because just the way that just the way that Kevin was talking to him, it felt like, please stop throwing it to the other team.
I was watching this quarterback coach, and I got deep in these documentaries, and he was like, well, the reason they pay quarterbacks that money is because it's like taking like 60 pop quizzes every single snap.
Right.
And on pop quizzes where you don't know what's on the test, you just study a bunch. It's like it's Jeopardy. You don't know what the categories are. You just got to study. So every single rep that they take, you got to have a perfect score or bad things happen. And that's why you say, well, what was he doing on this one? He said, listen, they could go into the halftime and give you a completely different look you've never seen. They could be like, yeah, we're not giving you zone. We're going to give you zone and man. We're going to give you man on this side, zone on this side. We're going to drop a defensive end. And he said the great quarterbacks got a certain way of just envisioning it and seeing it before it even happened.
Dissecting it.
It's just
knowing what they're looking at.
Before it even happens. And sometimes he said it's just a gut feeling. You can watch all the filming in the world. And I've seen quarterbacks like, I'll ask Sean this. I've seen DTR, I've seen Jameis, and I've seen Deshaun Watson. I've seen all three of them have to see it before they throw it. If the coverage is there and they see it and it's a clean picture.
But we've also seen examples this year of Jameis throwing guys open and throwing to spots there's nothing there, and he makes it work.
Well, it's like the golfer who can go out and shoot 6 under and can also go out and shoot 12 over.
Yeah.
He's John Daly.
Yeah.
I mean,
so does he have the ability? That's why I said physically.
That's what's so maddening.
That
and
is what's so
frustrating.
maddening, and that's what's so intoxicating, and that's what's so blinding.
And
that's why
he's-
when I see it, I go,
Yeah.
I need more of that.
And that's why he's been a backup for so many years, even though there's clearly not 32 quarterbacks better than him in the league.
Sure.
But he makes so many mistakes that you're just scared to put him in to start.
And I'll be interested in seeing what he said because I know Jason. He'll when you talk about Stefanski, Stefanski's talent is. Stefanski's talent is understanding people's deficiencies, and I think Stefanski, in the way he calls plays and how he goes about calling his plays, is to minimize your deficiencies. Right? What we see is Jameis Winston dropping back, throwing this football all these times. Kevin Stefanski knows he's not good enough to do that time and time again. But you know what we could do? Let's make the read a little easier for him. Maybe if I got play action, that slows down the linebackers. Maybe that gives me a little space above the linebackers in between the safeties because they got to respect the run. But then you got to actually run the ball. Like, there's different things that you have to do to protect guys. And if you put them in harm's way, like Bull said, I'm starting to come to the conclusion, it's not about the plays that you make. It's about the plays that you don't make. Listen, Patrick Mahomes didn't play well yesterday, but guess what?
He didn't kill them either.
He didn't kill you. He didn't give nothing away.
Yeah.
Like Russell Wilson against the Steelers a couple weeks ago. Russell Wilson didn't eviscerate him. He had just thrown for 400 yards the week before. You know what he said? I realize what type of game this is. I'm not going to throw the ball. And if Jameis Winston, like Jason said, the game was within reach.
Oh,
It was,
okay.
all you needed is a couple drives. All you needed is a
But
little
every
drive.
time you started to feel that, he threw a pick.
I talked to one of the guys in the locker room who said it was 14-0 at halftime, and we were walking in the locker room like it was 35-0. Like, guys just felt like they were out of it.
Jay, in baseball, when a hitter gets a scouting report, and I'm not saying that the league didn't have a scouting report on Jameis Winston, they did. But I think what happened here was, and I think the same thing happened too, by the way, to Joe Flacco last year. Houston was able to exploit it in the playoff game. They make a personality profile of Jameis Winston. Who is he as a quarterback? He's a guy that's going to take chances. He's going to try to put the ball in tight windows. So as a defensive coordinator, and by the way, he went up against one of the best yesterday, what you're going to do to him is we're going to give you looks that are temporarily there. We're going to bait you into throwing the football, knowing you're going to see that and say, ooh, that's what I want.
I don't know. There was no bait yesterday. He was just throwing it
Well,
double
the
coverage.
the deep ball, I didn't understand that whatsoever. But the pick, by the way, that was off Chubb, that's one of those. Come on.
Yeah.
That doesn't belong to Jameis Winston, but it goes on his record.
But he has a lot of those.
He does.
He has a lot of those.
I know,
It's
but
kind of funny, right?
Right.
well, if the ball was off target enough.
Yeah.
If it would have hit him in the chest, maybe you could say that
It was 2
had-
yards to the side. Like
It
that,
was.
That's
It
a
was to the
50-50
side,
you
but-
coulda- Chubb could also catch that.
Absolutely. And the bounce went right into the defender's hands. He
Yeah, it's
didn't
an
do anything
unlucky one for
special. It
sure.
just bounced right into his hands. But there are too many other times where I get the belief that the defense is either shading or giving him something, hoping he's going to take it, and then they close on it once the ball is thrown, and they pick the ball
Even
off.
worse, they could be giving him them throws in the first half to bait him into thinking, oh, we got him.
The equivalent
This
of
is-
Manny Ramirez spitting on a curveball, knowing he's going to see it later in the game and he's going to put it over the fence.
And then they get to the second half and be like, oh, you thought we was doing that? No. We just
Yeah,
switched
we'll
this
step in
all the
front
way
of it.
up.
I think it's interesting. I was just looking for a minute that, you know how Jameis Winston had that 1 year where he started the season for the Saints, played 6 games, got hurt in the 7th game.
Yeah.
And
14 touchdowns,
14
3 picks
touchdowns,
that
2
year.
picks.
Great year.
Right? It's the only time he has ever played well over any kind of decent stretch.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. The only time he's played pretty well over a decent stretch without turning the ball
Turnover
over.
free.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I noticed in that one stretch? It's never been in the case of his career.
What?
He wasn't throwing for a ton of yards. He averaged less than 200 yards a game in those games. Every other year where he's had a ton of interceptions, he's averaged 250, 260, 280, 300. Now,
He was still with Sean Payton then, right?
yeah.
That was Sean Payton, correct?
Maybe in Kevin's offense, not what they've been running this year, maybe in Kevin's offense where he's trying to prevent you from your flaw. That if they're running more play action and whatever, maybe he's making less mistakes. I don't know.
maybe. And
I don't know if it matters at this point.
And I don't know what the evaluation is. I don't know if they keep Dorsey and they go back to Kevin calling the plays, and Kevin's going to say, I can figure out a way to minimize some of these interceptions.
I said last week I'd fire Ken Dorsey. I'd fire him.
Well, really?
It didn't work. I'd fire Ken Dorsey.
You have to.
Kevin, I'd give play calling back to Kevin. Promote Tommy Reese.
It just, I agree with that, but it just makes us look so.
But there's no bigger indictment on Ken Dorsey though. Look what Josh Allen's doing.
No, when I was watching the Bills,
seriously.
Yeah, when I was watching the Bills yesterday, I said the same thing.
Their offense has less talent.
I was ready to give up on him. I mean, not give up on him, but I said I don't know you can win a Super Bowl with him because he throws too many interceptions.
Right, but I think last year was he's always a little high. Last year was the only year he was egregiously high on the interceptions.
Well, that
turned out to be the anomaly.
And that was when I was saying I don't think you can win with
right.
that.
And we'll see what happens in the playoffs.
And just like I don't think you can win ultimately big prize with Baker.
Right.
I don't think ultimately you can win big. The only guy that's really done this, guys, was Brett Favre, and he won one.
And it's not that long ago. The game was different because there were more interceptions in those days because you could hold on to the wide receiver back in those days. So overall, the interception number. But in this NFL, where you can't mess with the receivers at all, you just the guys at the top of the interception. I don't think you can win in big games again with those guys.
No, they're going to bring you down at some point.
I looked up the game log from that 2021 Jameis season.
Yeah.
That you just referenced.
I took out the one game where he got hurt. I didn't count that in my average yards per game.
Well, even still, in week 1, they beat the absolute crap out of the Packers, 38-3. He threw 5 touchdowns and 148 yards, no picks.
Well, when you're up that big, you're running the ball, and their run game must have been working.
But I'm just saying, 5 touchdowns, 148 yards.
That's odd.
They lost to Carolina, 22 pass attempts, 111 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. That was 2 of his 3 picks in those 7 games in that one game. The next week, they beat the Giants 28-13, 21 pass attempts, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. The next week, they lost to the Jets, 23 pass attempts, 226 yards, 1 touchdown, no pick. They played the Washington football team in 2021.
Football team in that year, yeah.
He was 15 of 30, so just a 50% completion percentage for 279 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. So that's the...
Did they win that game?
They did, 33-22. And then the following week, he was 19 of 35 for 222 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, in a 13-10 win over Seattle.
Well, whatever they were doing to keep him from giving the ball away, it worked, and it's not working now.
Nope.
Either way, one of the biggest things that they're going to have to do is they need to figure out what is going on with this offensive line, this running game. If they don't, I don't care who they put back there. They could put back Jameis, DTR, whoever they want to put back there. It is a wrap if they don't figure out what you're going to do with the run game.
2 straight years they've been able to run the ball. They couldn't run it last year either. And we
And
blamed
that
it. We
was
blamed
the
it on
identity.
We blamed it on just no Nick Chubb. But I mean, Callahan was here.
Yeah.
And they couldn't really run it. I mean, I don't remember now offhand what the numbers were, but
Well, the offensive line's not as good. That's part of it. They've played better the second half of the season. The
I know there's going to be plenty of time in the offseason to prioritize this team's needs, but just thumbnail real quick right now. And let's break them into 3 areas. Defense, I'll leave as its whole. But offense, running game, passing game. Like, how are you prioritizing their needs right now?
I mean, well, the quarterback is the biggest need.
Number one,
quarterback.
clearly.
And then offensive line.
I'd put left tackle number 2.
Left tackle.
Yeah, because you got to protect number 1.
I think it's very realistic that they may not be in a position to fix quarterback, that they go left tackle in the first round, and you have to kick the can down the road on quarterback.
But it's not just left tackle. In the next year or 2, you're going to have to replace almost everybody on that line.
It's old
And
and
I told
aging
you
out.
guys earlier, Zach Zinter has not been what they thought he would be. For a guy who's played as much in college, he's not ready. I'm not saying he'll never get there. I'm telling you he's not there now, and he's not anywhere near where they thought he would be by this point.
When's the last time they drafted a offensive lineman that was good? I mean,
Joe Thomas. Joe Batonio.
Batonio.
Well, they
Batonio.
drafted Alex
Batonio's-
Mack.
Mack.
that's not since
Max
Batonio.
Batonio's more recent than Mack.
Mitchell Schwartz was a good draft pick.
Not
but
here.
I don't think he's since.
He took off after he left here. It was probably Batonio.
He was good here. People
Yeah,
just
but
made
he
a
got-
big-
he got
his-
better. He
his-
got better.
Right, but his rookie year was bad. After that, he was good, and then he got great.
They need another receiver. They need a running back.
They need everything.
They need another defensive end. They need another linebacker. They need another corner.
You just pull up on that talent store and say, we'll take one of everything.
A safety.
That'll
There's
do
a
it,
ton
right?
of holes.
That'll
Black
fix it.
Friday sales.
I mean,